Hi everyone, and welcome to our first of our Healthy Campus series of Time Out Tuesday, where hopefully we can all just take a little bit of time to have a discussion around health and well-being. And today I'm very delighted to be joined by Aoife Clancy, who is a health and performance nutritionist, and she works with the Sligo GAA football and hurling team. So we expect to see some great things from that team this year when they come out of lockdown. We're also joined by Leah Gannon, and Leah is a fourth year student from Human Nutrition who has joined the Healthy Campus team, who now consists of two, myself and Leah. But she's been an absolute welcome addition, and she has been working with Aoife for the last few weeks in preparing a lot of the material for our Nutrition Week, which kicked off yesterday. So welcome Aoife and welcome Leah.
Thanks very much.
You're very welcome to our very first Time Out Tuesday. So Aoife, we'll get cracking. So we have you for about the next 40 minutes if we need it. So we recently, one of our master's students, Stephen Doak, he's been doing some studies into the diet and lifestyle choices of our student population. And one of the startling, well, for me anyway, was that 80% of our students are not getting their diet requirement for vegetables and fruit. And I was wondering, is that surprising to you? And I suppose the second part of the question then is it, and we can chat after that, is how can you up your veg and fruit? So I suppose the first thing is that a surprising statistic, 80%?
80%. It's quite a high percentage. It's not that surprising though. Well, it is, but at the same time, in Ireland in general, we're not the best fruit and veg eaters. There's a study done last year as well, and I think it was published in the Irish Examiner, but it showed that an average amount was 3.9 portions of fruit and veg per day amongst adults in Ireland. So it is a large percentage, but it doesn't surprise me at the same time. But I think, like, you know, it just takes a little bit of preparation and planning, and even knowing what one portion of fruit and vegetables is really does help. And just even creating this awareness that you're doing to show like how much more fruit and vegetables we can get into our diet and how easy it is as well. So I suppose that brings me to your second question there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so super easy. Like, first of all, I'll just start by saying what the benefits are of fruit and veg, because it's grand saying, you know, fruit and vegetables, we need to be increasing them, but why? It provides us with fiber and also provides us with vitamins and minerals. Okay, so that's a really important part of it. Like, for example, in a quarter to a half a piece of pepper, we can get in our daily requirements for vitamin C. So, you know, it is a massive benefit to our diet that we are increasing that, or getting in our fruit and veg. And fiber as well will also help to maintain our blood sugar levels, so that means it will be fuller for longer, and also helps to reduce cholesterol as well. So in terms of heart health, it's really good. Yeah, so by increasing it, smoothies, I'll start off by saying a smoothie because it's a really easy way, and we could get 2 to 3 portions in a smoothie. And as well, really convenient. So like if you're a student especially, there's loads of different types of fruit and veggies that you can get that are frozen. So like mango, or like frozen raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, all that kind of stuff. Really cheap and convenient, and they actually taste nearly nicer in a smoothie than the likes of like fresh strawberries or that. So they are pretty good. And yeah, we can get in 2 to 3 portions. Then, so that's like breakfast, as well as that then in breakfast time, by just including like maybe 2 portions of fruit on your cereal in the morning. That's an easy way to get it in. Even having a glass of like orange juice or apple juice, so that'll count as one of your 5 a day as well. And I will just mention there as well, so if we had, say, 2 glasses of orange juice, that wouldn't count as 2 portions, and that's just down to the release of sugars. So there would be a little bit higher in sugar content in the juice. However, that one glass will definitely contribute to one of our 5 a day. So that's a few ways for breakfast time. Snack time then, so like having maybe like sliced banana or something on sliced toast, or a bagel, or with peanut butter on a rice cake. That would be one way of getting in a portion. Then just like having, you know, like veggie sticks, hummus, that kind of thing. You can get loads of nice flavored hummuses, and reasonably priced too, in the likes of like Lidl, Aldi, Super Value as well. And then yeah, so then brings me to lunch. So lunchtime then, so soup is a really easy way of getting in some fruit and vegetables. So there's, you know, you can get in 2 to 3 portions, and it's relatively handy to throw together soup as well. You know, you could be studying at home or whatever, and you could be kind of just have the soup on near enough to you beside the hob, and you could just keep checking it as well. So you can just prepare everything, pop it into the pot, and then just keep checking it every so often. I actually used to make a soup when I was in college, and it was literally stock, tinned tomatoes, tinned kidney beans, and tinned vegetables. But it was super nutritious, like
eating and drinking in it. Yeah.
yeah. But it did me the week nearly, because you know it's really easy to just put that into a lunchbox and freeze it as well, so you'll have it for the week. Other ways then is just including like a salad along with your sandwich or whatever, or you know, maybe including a piece of fruit after your sandwich or whatever, so that you're getting in an extra portion there as well. Then dinners, the likes of stir fries, that was my go-to in college, just because you could get in 2 to 3 portions of veggies in that. The likes of stews and casseroles, or like any of those one pot dishes, really handy to get it in extra veg into them as well. Omelets would be another one of my go-tos. If anyone follows me on Instagram, I'd say there was a full year where I was just posting omelets. I've calmed down at it a bit now, but it was my go-to for after training as well, because the omelette, the egg would be high in protein, and I was also getting in about 2 portions at least in that omelette as well. And again, like an omelette, or like even a frittata. So frittata is like basically a bigger version of an omelette, but you could put some potatoes in it as well, and turn it into a meal. And that was something that I used to prepare for after a training session. So that's something you could prepare and have in the fridge for a couple of days as well. And again, getting in the fruit and vegetables there as well. So sometimes it does just take a little bit of preparation. And then I guess just in terms of what a portion is, so that everyone here on the call knows. So like 1 medium piece of fruit would be 1 portion. So that could be like a banana, an apple, or a pear. Or 2 small pieces of fruit would be 1 portion. So like 2 plums, 2 kiwis. And then when you're going into the smaller fruits, so like the likes of 6 strawberries, 10 grapes, that would be like 1 portion. And then say the likes of your frozen fruit and your frozen veg, which are nearly as nutritious as fresh, maybe even you know, fresher.
Go off.
Yeah, exactly. And having a half a cup of either frozen fruit or frozen vegetables would be considered at 1 portion as well. So yeah,
I suppose it's not rocket science, but you do have to think a little bit about it. You know, like you know, adding fruit to your breakfast. You know, I would be guilty of that. You know, having your bowl of porridge and just maybe forgetting to add a handful of fruit to it, and boom, first thing in the morning. And we have prepared very kindly for us some recipes, so we will be sharing those. You know, for breakfast ideas, snack ideas, lunch and dinner, and all of them involve getting in. You probably, if you follow your recipes for the day, you'll definitely get your 5 a day, or even your 7 a day. So that's great. I'll thank you for that one, Aoife. The next question we have, I suppose it's kind of maybe you touched a little bit about, you know, how fruit are brilliant for introducing, you know, nutrients and vitamins into your diet. And I suppose the world that we're living in now, in the COVID world, what would you recommend, you know, in terms of food intake, of what we should be eating to boost our immunity?
Yeah, okay, great question. It's very topical at the moment. So I think an overall diet of plenty of color definitely comes in nearly number one here in terms of helping to, improve your immune system. Because it means that, if we're getting in different colors throughout the day, so like we're getting in our greens, our red vegetables, orange, carrots, sweet corn, yellow, we're getting in beetroot, they're going to provide us with all the different types of vitamins and minerals. So it'll increase our chances of getting all our requirements in. So yeah, I think variety is definitely key in terms of what types of foods. But I also think that sometimes we need to take a step back from nutrition in terms of the immune system and look at what else we're doing in our day. So for example, stress levels might be high. So in terms of students and that, especially maybe this time of year when we usually have a lot of assignments and that. So that's something that needs to be like looked at in terms of maybe trying to reduce the stress levels with different things that you could be doing. Maybe reducing your stress levels could be getting out and going for a walk or something like that, or doing a bit of meditation. So I think including those things are important for the immune system. Also getting enough sleep, that's a massive one as well. So our 7 to 9 hours is what is recommended for us, and that really should be prioritized as well. And I know that I've done the odd very late night at this time of year a few years ago, but no, I think it's been more aware, or made people more aware now at the moment that sleep should be prioritized as well. And then getting in some activity, so that'll also strengthen the immune system. And I think all those factors together will really help. Yeah, I think that's,
it's like food and nutrition are key, but not on its own. So it's like it's a holistic approach. It's like it's getting a good night's sleep. It's getting out, getting some vitamin D in the sun. That's great. Listen, Leah is also on the call, and she has been taking some questions that people have been emailing us into before we joined you today. So I'm going to hand her over to Leah now and let her go through some of those questions.
Perfect.
Hi, Aoife. So I have questions from myself and just from students as well. So just the first question would be in terms of supplements. So it is a topic of discussion, and it frequently comes out among the area of nutrition. So first of all, should we be taking a multivitamin?
Okay, multivitamin. Yeah, so so just to refer back to what I said there with all the different types of colors. So if we were getting in different types of colors throughout our day or throughout our week, and different types of like a variety in our diet as well, so we're kind of hitting all the main foods that we need to be hitting, we don't really necessarily need a multivitamin. It's not going to benefit our diet. However, if we find that, we're not great for eating fruit and vegetables, or not even that we're not great, it's more, if we're very busy, having a bit of a hectic lifestyle, or just going through periods of like study. So when the stress levels are a little bit higher and literally we're spending our full day at a desk, and just kind of taking quick breaks, then I would think, maybe taking a multivitamin might be of benefit to you, just because you wouldn't be getting in those requirements. But other than that, we should be able to get it in through our diet.
Yeah, and then just to kind of carry on from that would be, is there any particular supplement that you would suggest if it's harder to find in foods? So just any kind of one that would be important for our health?
Yeah, so I would definitely say vitamin D, especially between the months of October and March. And main reason is because 90% of our vitamin D intake comes from the sun, and obviously we don't get much sun in Ireland between those months specifically. So taking a vitamin D supplement would be very beneficial, and that does help with immune function as well as also, especially when we're like in our teenage years, combining vitamin D with calcium helps to the absorption of calcium. So that's very important as well when we're in our teenage years. So one would be vitamin D. The other one that would be worth mentioning would be omega-3. Because I know that oily fish, number one, can be expensive, depending on where you buy it and that. So it mightn't be number one on the student list. So that's why I'd consider it. It would be an important one, because with oily fish, so our recommended intake should be 1 to 2 portions per day. And if we're not getting it in, then we're not getting in that requirement. it's important in terms of heart health. It is also important for brain function as well. And then in terms of sports performance, it helps to reduce inflammation and make sure that our joints are nice and healthy as well. So it's another one definitely worth mentioning. So it could come in like, you can get like omega-3 capsules, or like Eskimo oil is a good one to take. So that would be another one that I'd worth mentioning. As well on omega, it's worth mentioning the plant versions of it as well. So like we can get omega-3 in the likes of walnuts and chia seeds and that. So sometimes, you know, if say for an example, an athlete that I'd be working with wouldn't like oily fish, and that's pretty common that people don't like oily fish, I'd say just try and get a variety of like the walnuts and the chia seeds in throughout the week. So even firing them into smoothies and stuff like that. So if you don't like the taste of them, you can disguise it. So yeah, that was just probably worth mentioning as well.
Yeah, and you've kind of answered the next question, but just to kind of ask it anyways, it's just in terms of a vegan diet, what supplements should they take, and general overview how we can get all our vitamins and minerals as a vegan?
Okay, great question. Yeah, so luckily nowadays, so veganism is a lot more popular. So I think that they are, you know, fortified in a lot more foods. So like even the likes of tofu anyway, that's very high in calcium. So we're getting our calcium from that. But one that I would kind of consider would be like your B12 vitamin, because it comes in red meats. However, we could get that supplemented in the likes of like nut milks and that as well. So I think it's just being more aware and just kind of look out for on the ingredients list, or, you know, most of the time if it's fortified, it'll say it on the pack. So if it is like a nut milk or something that's a vegan product, it will usually have it on that as well. Anything else then in terms of maybe like protein is another one maybe to look out for. So if you found, say if you're an athlete in particular, you might find it a little bit more difficult to reach your protein requirements. It's definitely possible, but it just takes a little bit more planning and preparation, and including loads of different types of plant proteins. And another one is always making sure that you're combining plant proteins as well. So say for example, you're having a chickpea curry with brown rice or white rice, because you're getting two different plant proteins, one in the chickpeas and one in the rice, and combining them makes it a complete protein. Whereas if we were just having the chickpea curry, then we'd only be getting, it wouldn't be as beneficial to us, so we wouldn't be getting that amount of protein that we need absorbed. So that's just worth mentioning as well, I guess. But yeah, omega-3 would definitely be another one for vegan diet as well.
Yeah, I suppose just with a vegan diet, like they just have to have a bit more, have time and just a bit more information to make sure they have a balanced diet as well. That's just the questions on supplements. So the next question we have was, as part of the IT Psycho study, cooking was seen as maybe as a barrier or a challenge for some students, and some may not have the time, or they just don't like cooking in general. So they may have opted for fast food takeaway. So just in terms of this, what impact would fast food have on energy levels and just in the overall diet?
Yeah, okay. So if we're, say, getting a lot of takeaway foods, that might, the chances of them having like a higher fat intake in them might be higher. And if we have like a high fat intake for a long period of time, like, you know, having it 3 or 4 times a week, maybe that can have an effect on our mood. And especially if we have, like, if anyone has like a mood disorder such as anxiety or depression, having those types of foods a lot can definitely have an impact on like how we're feeling generally. And actually studies have shown that the Mediterranean diet, so that's like oily fish, your olive oils, your nuts and seeds, and including plenty of colors and stuff, and like protein foods, whole grain carbohydrate foods, they have a positive impact on our mental well-being, because it actually helps to reduce feelings of anxiety and depression as well. So I guess that if we weren't getting enough of that balance in, that it can have a direct effect on our mood. This is actually something I talked in, or was asked last week as well. So if, you know, let's take our holiday or Christmas, for example, and we are eating all the best foods. We're eating like plenty of chocolate and foods that are high in fat, and we're increasing our intake of calories in general. But at the end of the week, or the end of, you know, when January comes, everyone just kind of wants more fruit and veg and just kind of wants to make some changes. And that's maybe reflected back on how we actually feel after that period as well, that our mood might be down, and that as well. So that could be down to, you know, our higher intake of food that just higher intake of foods that would be higher in fat and sugar.
Yeah, because I know if, just say, as you said, Christmas, people are eating a lot more, like say chocolate and everything. You would feel a bit like moody, or you might be a bit more lazy, so you're not going for your walks. You don't have to, but like getting on track and having a balanced diet is really important.
Yeah,
that's kind of where that came out.
And I suppose, you know, I'll jump in there, Lee, if you don't mind. I suppose, you know, the idea behind this week is that, you know, if you follow us on our Healthy Campus Instagram account and Twitter account, we will be sharing a lot of recipes for people, and also sharing your videos. And, you know, while there might be kind of like, none of us might be great cooks, a lot of the stuff that you're sharing with us, Aoife, is pretty easy to do. And especially, I suppose, coming up to exam time frame, the tendency maybe is to go for the quick takeaway option, where really truly a lot of the dishes that you're recommending for us can take 10-15 minutes max to cook, quicker than it'll take for the takeaway to come. So, you know, so it's just, as I said, if you follow the social media for the week, you will get a lot of information of some good recipes and good nutritious food that will help you through, I suppose, the next few weeks when we're doing exams and studying and everything. There's a couple of questions coming in here on the chat function. If you don't mind, I'll hop into a couple of them, and then we'll go back to Aoife or to Leah again. So someone asked, what food would you recommend that you take after a long run?
Okay, great question. So there's 3 things you got to think of after a long run, and that would be carbohydrate source, a protein source, and a fluid. Okay, so I'll elaborate now on that. So when we go for a run, our body, naturally enough, that it goes under stress, and our muscle tissue can get broken down. So in order to replace that muscle tissue, we need to replace it with a protein food. So in terms of protein food, we're talking like the likes of chicken, fish, meat, or a vegetarian protein food, as I was talking about. A carbohydrate source might be a piece of fruit, like it could be a banana, to get an immediate to replace the glycogen stores. So when we run, we use up the glycogen stores. So if you were to take, for example, a fuel tank, okay? So say, for example, before you go for a run, your muscle is that fuel tank, so it's full up to the top. And once you run, then that fuel tank goes down, 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 down until about halfway, maybe completely empty, depending on how long the run is. So you need to replace that again with a carbohydrate source in order to fill that fuel tank back up again. This is extremely important as well. Say if you were doing a run the next day or 2 days later, that the foods that you eat between those 2 runs are going to be really important as well. So that's the carbohydrate source. Again, it could be like a bagel or a sandwich, or a few slices of toast or something to get on board immediately. So a snack like the fruit or like the toast, and then filling up with like a meal with rice or pasta, or potatoes or something like that, maybe a couple of hours after that snack again. And then the fluids, because when we run, we lose electrolytes and we lose fluids through our sweat. So it's important to get that back on board again. And like one thing that I've done with athletes and teams before is weighing them in before a training session. Could go the same for a run, and then weighing them in after the training session. And some of the players might lose up to 2 kgs in sweat and fluids. So that means then that they need to, say, multiply what they lost. So say that was 1 kg of fluid loss. They need to multiply that by 1.5, because we need to replace that fluids lost by 150%. So that means that they have to drink 1.5 litres of fluid. And players sometimes aren't happy to hear that at 9 o'clock on a Friday night after a training session, but they're only replacing the fluids that are lost. And if we don't replace them, it means that our recovery could be affected. So that was a long way of answering that, but the milk is a really good like recovery drink. And that is because it will provide us immediately with the carbohydrate source that we need, the protein source that we need, and also the fluids as well. Okay. So something like milk or a flavored milk if you weren't a fan, or a smoothie is also a really good option to have like within that hour after, because sometimes after a long run we don't really feel, you know, we have the best appetite either. So yeah, a smoothie or something would work there as well.
That actually answers the second question that has come.
Okay.
How quickly after you come back from a run? So obviously you're basically what you're saying there. So the most important thing is to get your fluids back up. Mm-hmm. Then a snack, obviously, like with like a banana or a glass of milk, and then I suppose when you catch your breath and that you sit down and then you get on board your carbohydrates. Am I correct with that? Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. I think as well it does matter when how far away your next training session is. So if you're training a few times a week, you know, those 2 hours after that run will be important. So the main thing is try and get something on board, like within half an hour, within an hour. Okay. It's not always going to be possible, but if you can, and that's just to kind of kickstart that recovery process, but then having something that 2 hours to 4 hours later, again, that's kind of where you want your meal in there. But you know, if you were to say have your meal within the hour, that's perfect too. But yeah, it's just to have something like carbohydrate based, protein based straight after, in a snack form. So yeah. You know, it could even be like the likes of like oat cakes and rice cakes with some peanut butter and banana. Like that would get in the carb and also get in the protein, a little bit of protein there, and maybe having that with a glass of milk or something like that would be a good snack option to have within the hour.
Excellent. And obviously it's I know we're talking about after a run, but you can't underestimate the value of water.
Yeah.
And again, how much water would you recommend just for the average person in a day? Like what should we be drinking?
Oh yeah. So if I take it, say, outside of sports just for the minute, so, you know, our recommended is usually, you know, we hear like 2 liters or we hear 8 glasses, but that might not be the same for every person because it goes on body weight. Okay. So say, for example, if somebody was 70 kgs, they have to multiply 70 by 35 mils, so mLs, or whatever your body weight is by 35 mLs. And then that will give them 2.7, 2.8 milliliters of water. So that's how much you know how to drink then. That's 2.7 or 2.8. But then let's refer back to weighing in the athletes and, you know, having on top of that 1.5 liters extra or that. But yeah, like the most common weight losses you might see, depending on the distance of the run and if it's sunny weather as well, that might factor in more sweat losses. And if it is sunnier weather, then I would definitely, like, you're looking at up to probably 1.5 liters extra on those days.
That's good to know. I think I suppose I follow the, 8 glasses a day kind of recommend, but don't always get it in, I'll admit as well, because sometimes drinking water gets in the way of having to take breaks, which I suppose is a bad thing as well.
I think as well, like just having your meals prepared for the week and know exactly what you're having will really help with, like, say if you are training quite a lot, at least when you go home, something's ready for you to eat, and like it'll help at the time. It doesn't take long at all.
Yeah, definitely.
A quick question on water: is sparkling water and still water be the same?
Yeah, nutritive value wise it would be. The only thing about drinking maybe like sparkling water, say before running or something like that, it'd just be more gassy and it wouldn't be as, but in terms of like hydrating, it's no difference really.
Someone else said here, does it have to be water or are any fluids okay?
Great question. So generally the best fluids to take in terms of hydrating you, getting you back to that normal hydrated state, would be water and milk. Okay, then outside of that, fluids can make that up. So I had a woman on a call last week who drinks 6 to 8 cups of tea. So she said, how much of that can I count towards my fluids in a day? But say, for example, her intake of fluids was supposed to be 2.5 litres of water. I'd say try and aim to hit about 1.5 litres in water or milk, fluids, and then the rest could be made up with tea or coffee. So like if we could count, say, 2 cups of coffee and maybe 3 cups of tea towards our fluids per day, but we'd have to be drinking that with water, otherwise it'll dehydrate you.
Yeah, because of the diuretic effect of it. Yeah. The questions are coming in fast and heavy now, and I know a couple more, but I'll answer a couple that are, or ask a couple that are coming in the on the chat function. The other question was, is there such thing as too many eggs in a day? So like how many is too many, or is it?
You're talking to someone who used to eat 3 eggs a day every single day, and that was for a long time. I think there used to be a little bit of a stigma around eggs in terms of the amount of cholesterol in them, and I think that's maybe where this question is coming from, because like basically the cholesterol that's in eggs is a good cholesterol, so it's not going to have any negative health effects on you. However, if you were to say cook the eggs every day, have them fried, for example, in like fat or something, that would have more of a negative impact on your health, because the fat source would be saturated fat, and high levels of saturated fat in our body can lead to the risk of like heart disease and that over a very long period of time. But in terms of just like saying having your scrambled eggs, your boiled eggs, your poached eggs, having 3-4 a day it's not going to have any negative health effects on you. It's a nutrient powerhouse, the eggs. So
I mean,
plenty.
As a mum of 2 relatively young kids, I'd be lost without eggs in the house, because if there's eggs, there's always a meal of some type to be had. But I suppose it's not necessarily the eggs, it's what you put on, so and how you cook them. I think that answers all that's come in on the chat for now anyway. Leah, did you have a couple of more questions you wanted to?
I just have 2 more questions. So is there a quick and simple way to figure out how many calories you should be consuming based on factors such as weight, activity level, and age, just for example?
Okay. I think there's a small way that you can do this. So what you can do is, say for example you were sedentary, so you weren't doing very much activity. What you can do is, if you're, say for example, take me, and I wasn't doing very much activity, I could multiply what we call like 30 calories, so 30 kilocalories, and multiply that by our weight. So say for example 70 kg or whatever. But if I add some activity onto that, so say I was training 3 to 4 times per week, even 3 times per week, I'd increase that to about 35 calories by my body weight. So say for example, so that would be in and around the 2,400, 2,500 mark. And that would be what my calorie intake should be for that amount of activity. So that's where I'd be at. If I was a male and I was training maybe 5 times a week, then you increase that to 40 kilocalories by your body weight. So that's the easiest way to take into consideration. That would probably be the best way. If you were kind of very wanting to know more detail in terms of like your age, and if you were training so many times per week and you were maybe looking for a particular protein requirement in that, I have recommended in the past to like athletes, if they wanted to see if they were reaching their requirements, to download my MyFitnessPal and use it for 1 max 2 days. And that would just to ensure, that they're reaching their requirements. But I'd never recommend it for any more than that. Just because it's very tedious and very can get like, we don't really want to get too bogged down with figures and stuff like that, but it does just give people a general understanding of macronutrients, carbs, proteins, fats, and our calorie intake as well. And I think that's important when you're looking to understand more about nutrition. I think that's
perfect.
That's great.
Then just the last question was, what is one of the best pieces of nutrition advice that you could give?
That's a massive question. But
we've only 5 minutes left there, so
okay.
you might have to think about that one now.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a massive question because nutrition is so vast and there's so many different areas to go in or to go into. But I think the best probably bit of advice I could give in terms of if someone was to looking to improve their nutrition would be that small changes make big benefits. So don't overwhelm yourself with too much information. Like there's so much information out there in the internet and so much maybe false or misleading information as well. So, just if you're wanting to make changes, start small. So that could be with increasing your fruit and vegetable intake. That could be one place you could start. And like I've been working I have been working on improving, say, the likes of like someone's habits, formation of habits and all that. And that's very buzzy at the minute, and I know that. But it really is like it takes a really long time to form a habit. So say, for example, you were trying to increase your fruit and vegetable intake. Start with that. Or if it was fluid intake, start with that a different week. Or, it's not be overpowering yourself with too much info. They'd be good places to start. Like if you're an athlete, start with maybe like increasing your protein intake and looking at basically, are you having enough carbohydrate before a session to make sure that you have enough energy to last a full session? Are you getting in good recovery after? Yeah, I don't want to go into, I could talk all day about this, but I do think
for a second session.
But I do think that just it's real small changes. So another example would be if you ate maybe takeaway foods 4 times a week, reduce to 3. And then maybe 2 weeks later, if you found that okay, reduce to 2 days a week and just go like that. So don't just, like the one of the most common mistakes I see is clients or individuals trying to make too many changes at once. So they might be trying to make changes to, I'm going to start running 4 days a week. I'm going to start running 3 days a week, and I'm not going to have any sweets, or I'm going to cut all the crisps and all the fizzy drinks out when they're used to having fizzy drinks every day and having, sweets maybe every day. Like, don't just cut it all willy-nilly, because it's really like what can happen then is we end up rebounding on that then. So we just kind of go, oh, well, I tried it and I might as well just, give up on it. And then that can come in again to, I'm going to give it a go again a month later. And that cycle then kind of continues. So yeah, I think small changes, big benefits would be my advice there.
Yeah, I think that's actually really, it hits the nail on the head, even for me, especially with when you have kids at home. It's like, they eat what I buy for them, so as a parent, it's kind of like, if you're shopping and you're including your fruit and your veg and your good protein sources, you can start the habits young. I suppose sometimes when we find when students come into college that some of those we'll say unhealthier habits can happen when they come into college, and I suppose what we're trying to do is influence some of those and encourage people to make positive changes for their health, because it's all in the long run. You may not feel it when you're 20 or 30 but you certainly it'll be the choices you make in your 20s will be with you for a lifetime. Listen, Aoife, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, and thank Leah as well. All our nutrition information will be available on at IT Sligo Healthy, and also it'll be downloaded at the end of this week, and will go up on the Healthy Campus Moodle page when I figure out how to do it, I'll admit. But it will be on it from hopefully from next week onwards. Aoife, if people wanted to get in contact with you because you do one-to-one coaching with people, if they wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Best way would be email, usually for like inquiring about nutrition coaching and that would be Aoife at aoifeclancynutrition.ie. And then other than that, I get a lot of queries coming through my Instagram as well. So that'll be Aoife_Clancy would be my Instagram. I also have a Facebook, Aoife Clancy Nutrition. Yeah, and I would respond on that as well quite regularly. So
excellent. Listen, it's been a pleasure, and thanks a million. You'll get back out with the Sligo GAA teams in the not too distant future.
Yeah, fingers crossed we'll be back.
Joining us today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right.